So let's punch this out. So good morning. This is Simon with Trade and Perform Coaching. It is Tuesday morning, the 8th of February. Really quick, for those who would like to visit the Trade and Perform room, send me an email to this email address. I'll give you information on either joining the room or getting a 3-day pass. The email is tradeandperform@gmail.com. So, guys, let's just look overnight really quick and into yesterday. Yesterday was a balanced day, pretty much what we expected in terms of second, pretty much what we expected in terms of um, what we look for when there's really no driver, right? So let's kind of start big picture, then we'll work our way down. So ES profile, and you can see we're now 3 days of balance. So this is what when the people say, hey, the market's building energy, the market's building energy. It's either going to make a move to the upside or move to the downside. If I had to guess, I would say like we really just I think that needs to be cleaned up upstairs. That's like 1, 2, 3, 4 prior days highs that haven't been tested. I think we need to go clean that up. So my guess is that this gets taken out one way or the other, right? We really haven't come below the 50 retrace here from the swing low to the high. Like this really hasn't fallen apart. What we've done is we've accelerated, right? We probably put on too much too fast, and we're working energy off sideways. That's not that's not to say that the market can't or won't come in or can't drop lower. It's just to say it just doesn't look bearish, right? And then you look at the bigger picture, right? For all the selling that we had when you pull this in further, and we're basically you know down to December lows. But look, if you're a long-term investor, that's not a heinous chart, right? Potential head and shoulders up here on the left, right? But nothing horrible. So the one of the two things, either we come out and take all these prior days highs and we take them out, or we come down and test this left shoulder concept where they try to hold that 42.75. Those are just ideas, right? The market can do whatever it wants to do, and even in a way of doing that, if we can, we want to align our trading ideas with what the larger picture wants to do, but that's a harder task versus just taking the trade. And remember, when you're talking about NQ or ES and you're taking 5 or 10 points, that's the majority of the people in the room. That's their goal, right? Get paid, move along. That's how they're trying to do it, and there's nothing wrong with that idea of trying to do that. It makes perfect sense, and that's what I'm trying to do every day. I'm trying to reduce as much stress and tension as I can intraday into my trade from my trading, and make good trading decisions as the market rolls along. Right. So again, I think either take out the 4,600 or come back and test out this um, head and shoulders concept, which would be off that 42.75 area. And again, I don't know which way the market wants to go. I don't even care. That's just what's kind of on my mind in terms of looking for what the potential opportunity is. So next, once you look closely within that, you can see we're trading, and NQ looks much the same, right? So if you'll see inside this value area from yesterday, this value area now contains 1, 2, 3, 4 days of approximately the whole thing's been 4 days worth of value area. So we know normally for mind over markets, the value area usually is a more difficult place to trade. So when it overlaps value over multiple days, what that means is just this whole thing, this 44.83 to 45.08, that whole area can just get swept straight through. That can work to your advantage, right? It makes it difficult to establish inside there. But if you get long, say you get long underneath 44.62, it's reasonable to think, hey, if I get an upside push, I can sweep all the way through this value area, right? Conversely, if you get above 45.32 and you think we're going to come back in for a balance day, you can sweep all the way through it to the downside as well. Both concepts should be in your mind. One thing for sure, this is going to become a much harder place to trade in. This is scalp. If I trade inside this area, this is scalp with heavy scales on the first scale and small trailers, because who wants to get chewed up inside that area? The next thing that you'll see here is that we're on the inside day to Friday's high and low, right? So Friday's high and low are what the principal locations that matter in terms of making a move up or down. Otherwise, we're just balancing inside the range. And again, when we're inside an inside day, that those areas become more difficult to trade. So if we look at NQ, we'll have much the same picture. You can see it's 3 days of balance, and if you look further back to the left on this chart, you can see we've just been going from balance, breakout, balance, right? So when I look at this chart, what needs to be tested? Well, when I look, you could take out this slow swing here down at 13,859. That may be off by a tick, but it's roughly 13,859. Take out the stops down here, or again at 13,701, which would be a complete retrace down to January 24th. It hasn't bounced as hard as ES has. Or you can see all these areas, the single prints. I really would have thought yesterday we could have taken out the single print. So technically it's a sign of weakness, but we're not underneath Friday's low either. So let's call it a push, right? These single prints need to be re-auctioned. You have this yellow zone that's a natural magnet above, and then all these prior days highs that need to be checked out. And then down below, right, you have this 14,200. It's right by a round number. You'd expect a response out of it. You have a prior day's low at 32 to tag underneath, or to take out the January 28th or the January 24th lows and pop back in, right? So again, we're sweeping over the same value area. We're inside an inside day. Same idea in concept, hit and run, unless you're very clear on which way the market's going to go. But the reality is the market's gone nowhere the last 3 days. So you'd have to be pulling from some deeper source of knowledge as to which way the market's going to break in order to figure that out. And more importantly, when it's going to break if you're going to try and push those for extended moves. Okay. So the next part of our process is, let's go see what the market did overnight on the 15-minute charts. So here's NQ. Again, we're going to be in balance overnight. So this is the volume point of control on NQ yesterday, and it's right at the bottom of the value area. I did not put the TPO point of control, and you can see we've spent our entire evening just grinding around that volume point of control. Therefore, 14,560, probably the worst place on the chart. 14,600, excuse me. Maybe the worst place on the chart to trade, right? That thing's just a grinder in there. Above it looks okay, below it looks okay, inside of it, just, man, it's just been a grinding machine. Even if you got the direction right, you had to be extremely patient. So you can see we pierced underneath prior day's low. The real low that matters is that 14,432 and that 14,415, and above 14,806 and 14,618. And really, I would just block off this whole area. This whole area is potential short location on setups. All right, that whole block up there, I'm kind of hunting that. If we get up there, the opposite is, so remember, you're going to have to offset this with, if we consolidate above value area high for 30 minutes to an hour, that you could push out and go trend day up. We'll probably recognize the PA based on the size of the rotations, but we'll just have to see. Again, there's almost nothing on the calendar to work off of one way or the other. Biden speaks on manufacturing at 12:35. I hope to be done before 12:35. I know when it's balanced like this, it's hard to keep focus. At least for me, it's hard to keep focus. So I'll just keep an eye on it. Right. I don't have much else to add from that perspective on ES. You can see we've been inside yesterday's range all night long. Chop. We've come back to the point of control, natural magnet. That would be the magnet up this morning if we get responsive buyers. And then I would look, really the place I'm most interested in is 44.42 down to 4,400 for a push back in. And if we get stretched, maybe 43.60. Again, no news equals hard to get a stretch. You know, a lot of times when you get, so we're no longer in this raging bull market, right, where every day is an up day. So what you just get is kind of this complacency where they just slowly bring it down and they pop it back up. So what are we looking for when that occurs? And yesterday I missed the trade that I thought was one of the best, so I'm going to cover it. And it's on NQ over here. I saw it, but I didn't measure it quickly enough, and I missed the trap back in. So if you look over here, right again, and the ideas of in terms of what we're looking for. So I'm going to erase this. So I had this gray area. This told me we were essentially oversold. I hate that term, but I'm going to use it. Oversold, potential for a reversal, right? If you look at that low, what I want to do is come in. One of the best setups can be breaking that low without generating a new oversold indicator. That would be indicative of divergence, right? And see how it trapped back in with a star, and that's just really, really good. I know it was by a tick, but I would take the stop on that every time. I believe Sean caught that yesterday. Sean, correct me if I'm wrong. And you can see that trade from entry, which would have been 14,568, was worth 100 points and in very short order. That's $2,000 a contract. That's 100 bucks right there from 1142 to 1212. So you can't knock that with stick. It was a really good trade. So what else are we looking for here, right? So let's go through our setups for the day. ES and Q, they're all the concepts and the ideas are the same. Speed bar that gets trapped back in with a star or vice versa, right? Star that gets trapped back in with a speed bar. Star back into almost any power bar that gets stopped out, right? Again, with the idea of what we're looking for. Important, right? No supply, no demand that then gets the point of control underneath. I am very much looking for that trade here, 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 right? These are 20, 30 point squirts at $600 a pop. That's excellent, right? That's absolutely nothing to sneeze at. Those are good trades, right? Again, no supply, no demand. It got stopped out. You had to know to come right back into it. And how would you know that? It stopped it out and it came back to it with a star. That's ideally where you would be short. And even if it stops you out, you got more than enough between here and here. Right? That's a 20 tick chart, right? So this is a run from 92 to 71, $400 a contract in that little squirt right there, right? Again, more than enough to get your risk off. And for many in the room, that's more than enough to get paid for the day, right? Again, no supply, no demand, point of control underneath, push down, right? You obviously want to line that up with your expectation. And if you look at that trade, when you look at this roll to the downside, right? So the one thing I went back and looked yesterday, I didn't trade that, and I generally don't trade the last hour. But if I was trading the last hour, one of the things that would have been frustrating for me here was that this didn't turn into a power bar, therefore this was not a star to a star. So if you're good enough to recognize that's two speed bars with stars on them, and when they close into each other, they're powerful, but that's yet another variation, and I try not to overwhelm the people in the room. So let's say we just didn't get this short at all, right? So you go, well, how would have I caught that trade to the downside? Like, how would have I gotten paid? And I'm gonna show you how you would have gotten paid on that trade, right? So if you look on it wasn't on the 20, but it was on the 24. And if you look on the 24, you'll see a no supply, no demand, point of control gets underneath, and that released it for a pretty fat move to the downside. It was about 50 points on the initial move down, right? That's what I'm hunting when I can't get the rest of the trade to set up for me. Okay, and if you look at that sequence, whether using the 20 or the 24, which is why I use both, right? So you'll see this is a speed bar that trapped back into a power bar. That's a valid trade. Again, that's about 20 points, right? If you look up here, if you were trying to find the trade, nothing set up here the way we would have wanted to. And that's what you want to tell yourself when you get up there is that that's okay if you miss the initial push. Just be ready down here. This is very often the trade that'll get you to lead into or let you lean into that trade. There are places where it stops, like right here. No supply, no demand, point of control underneath, and it's immediate stop, right? Don't worry about it. That's okay. It's immediate stop, and that's what you want. The idea is you're getting 2 and 3 to 1 RR stretches on your trade, and that you have a high ability to manage that it's going to set up. You don't need to take 100 trades a day, right? So again, when we're focused on these trades, like this was very important right here at 9:45, and I believe we caught this. I hope I'm not lying. Oh no, what? We didn't. Oh, but you know what this, okay. So see how this thing goes star and speed bar into star, but it went speed bar back into speed bar right here. That's a great trade, right? This is no supply, no demand right here. Pink bar. Oh, I can't draw. Point of control unequal to or underneath. Beautiful trade. And you only need so many trades. You only need so many of those trades to get paid every day. Right? So you can see I'm focusing on very specific. Now, where's the trick? The trick is to take this chart and tie it up with the bigger levels off of our daily chart and off our 15-minute setups, right? That's where the big trick comes in. So this morning, right, why is that valuable or why is that important? The reason why that's invaluable or the reason why that's important is because I want to get to the edges of these trades so I'm not getting chopped up, right? I know my trade, if you look yesterday, if I'm looking back to the left, right, for my short, let's say we're trading down here and I go, oh, I really want to short. I really want to be short. I think we closed at the low of the day. Let's say you got that part correct, right? So you're trading over here. And so you have some options. The first thing you say is, well, if we test value area high, I want to short, or prior day's high, but you wouldn't know without the algo exactly where you want to enter and how you want to scalp off of it. But what I would know from looking back to the left is I would do this. I go, okay, this was the push down coming into the low. I'd like to get behind this, maybe this, and then this, right? This doesn't exist. So what you would do, what that does for you, why is that important? Because what that does is instead of trying to focus on the shorts or getting big extensions down here, right? It's going to draw your eyes from down here up to here, right? That automatically resets your brain. It's hard when we're trading on those small time frames to reset your brain to the bigger pick. So at least when you get up here, right? That's 14,691. But even at 14,671.50 in the afternoon, right over here, 14,671.50. If I come back over to my chart, again, I'm not trading the first half hour. Certainly not the first 15 minutes. But if I look at 14,671, okay, that's approximately where that 15-minute level is, right? And then I go look at noon, past noon, I go, okay, well, I want to get above that level, right? So come back in. I know we crossed it, so I must have done something wrong. Or did we come right to it? No, we had to get to it in the afternoon. Hold on. DS 27. We got above 691. Sorry. Excuse me. Sorry, I totally ADD'd that. 14,671. Let's try that again. There we go. Okay, so that's my first marker right there, right? And if I look back to the left, okay, there's the first time above, this is the first time above that level, right? So let's say I was looking for the short at that location. So a couple of things. First of all, I had speed bar back into power bar right here. Was it a home run? No, it was not a home run, but it was enough to get my scale off, right? And that was right underneath. Then it gets above. This is simply power bar back into power bar off to the left. It's a minus setup. It's okay. It's good. It's in the A category. It's just not great. It just didn't set up great to the short side. My next level was 14,691. That was over here, right? And my level after that was going to be a bigger stretch all the way up to 14,742, right? So when I look at this speed bar that gets closed back in with the power bar, it's an A trade. It's not A plus, but it's okay, right? I get a speed bar back into a speed bar. Notice that all of these trades, because you're entering on the close back in, all these trades gave you the opportunity to get risk off. That was about it. This one had a bit nicer stretch. You might have gotten the risk and another scale off, but they didn't give you the big pushes, right? But when I'm up here and I'm looking for my trade, right? You didn't miss the whole trade. The market did what it was supposed to do, right? It got above, it exhausted, right? Got below the wave to the high right there, which is good. And then it gave you a no supply, no demand with a point of control underneath. And that gave you the trade to the downside. And it probably looked much the same if we go look at that same area on the 20, right? So this gave speed bar back into speed bar, right? Over here, you got no supply, no demand underneath. That's why you need, again, two different sets of charts so you can see where the setup's coming from. And then you'll notice whereas on the 24, you got the no supply, no demand, and the point of control underneath. You did not get it on the 20, and that's okay, all right? That's totally fine. It's not a big deal. And then you'll also notice the old setups don't fail, right? Triangle up, speed bar, star, that's a good short. I can't go through all the sets, so what I'm trying to do for the room is simplify the entries as much as possible so you can see them. And the easiest way for me to simplify is to go, hey, look at the power bars and look for the traps back in. Why? It does two things. If someone's looking just for triangle up speed bar, it forces you to be right on the edge. Some people aren't good or uncomfortable being right on the edge to look for a specific algo pattern that's developing in real time. But when you go, hey, here's the speed bar, right? See if you can close back into it, right? Now people go, okay, I understand this concept. I understand that I can look at this trade. I have heads up and warning for where I'm looking for this trade, right? So I can go like this. I go, okay, there's my speed bar. Maybe I can stop that out and close back in. So it gives you time to think through what you're going to do. Be prepared to put your sell limit in or your buy limit in on the trade, and or buy stop, sell stop, excuse me. And it gives you time to do a little more analysis. Where am I on the chart? It's not there yet, but that would be an area I'd be looking for, right? Versus star diamond short, right? Like I'm okay with it. I can do that all day long. It does not bother me one iota. But some people it does bother, right? So the simpler ways to look for the power bar and the power bar, and as y'all know, here's one of the things that's come up with the newer people that the older people in the room already know. Yes, there are more setups than I'm calling in the room. I'm trading more setups than I'm pointing out in the room. Why? So what the give and take that usually goes is this. If someone comes to me and goes, well, what setup did you trade there? And I'll go, well, I traded triangle star diamond speed bar up, right? Well, you didn't call it in the room. I want to know that setup. And the problem is when they haven't mastered one, they want me to give them another one. And so then I stack them up with 5 or 6 or 7 different setups, right? And then inevitably what happens is when I come back, they go, well, I can't figure this out. There's too many setups, right? So I purposely cut the spigot off to the point where, like right now, I think everyone's pretty much humming very profitably in the trading, right? I like that. I don't like stress. I like knowing that people are making money in the room. It puts me relaxed, it puts them relaxed, and I don't feel any pressure, right? So I'll teach anyone who wants to learn all the setups. There's not a secret in this room that I'm not willing to teach outside of what the formula is for the algorithm, right? I will teach them all to you. Just realize the odds of you being able to pull off all the various combos are about zero, right? You'd have to be a computer to do it. And even then, it would be tough, right? Because you have to set up all these parameters. So my suggestion to you is just be gentle with yourself. The power bar into power bar gives you time to think. We just opened up. And so I'm looking for the same setups as yesterday. Does anyone have any questions before I kill this preview and we kind of just start looking for our setups? This is not good. NQ is down 26. ES is flat or inside prior day's range. Yada, yada, yada. There's no week on. We'll see what they decide to do. I just don't feel like I'm in a rush this morning. I think they could do whatever they want, frankly. I don't think there's much interest one way or the other. So we'll see. Okay, I'm going to kill the preview. Guys, thank you all for joining this morning. Let's see if I can find it.